was a time in my professional career when people said, Heidi, you have a real talent to simplify and summarize things. It is certainly not the day today. It has been incredibly rich, very complex, but amazing, amazing contributions. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions before I try to summarize it and sort of lead it into a couple of next steps, okay? So could you actually feel the collective horsepower in this room today? Is this sort of something, could you feel that? On a scale from 0 to 10, and I'm going to ask you if it's on a 5 or 8 or a 10, would you say the discussions were rich, deep, and had value for the STEM issues and challenges you're tackling with in your companies? So on a scale from 0 to 10, who thinks you're at the level of 5 in terms of depth, richness, and contribution for your company? Who thinks you're at a 7 in terms of what you gained, and who thinks you're on a 10? So I'm going to start with a 5.
Is that from today?
Today's discussion, today's summit, because we all took time out of our busy calendars to come here. I really want to get the temperature in the room. I know a lot of people had had to leave to catch trains or whatever, but still for those of you here, the value of the summit in terms of how informative it was for you, the richness of discussions. Is it on 5 scale, 7 scale, or 10? 5, 7, 10? Okay. And on a scale from 0 to 10, how much impact will industry collaboration have for what you want to achieve with your company in terms of making sure that in a couple of years from today or as soon as possible, you have the right STEM talent to be successful in your company? So again, scales from 0 to 10. Who believes that industry collaboration and coalition will have an impact on the company on a scale of 5? 7? 10? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, now here comes the challenge. Some people say I'm known to have a talent to simplify things. I told you it's not today, so I'll try anyway, okay? So what I saw as results from the summit today, I put sort of mentally and strategically in 2 buckets. There is an learning for the individual enterprise that has been represented here today. And then there is an opportunity for the broader coalition to decide on 1 or 2 major actions that we believe can make the wheel spin faster. In terms of the enterprise learning, I don't think that I have to stand here today to tell you what your call to action now would be in your company. You know that much better than I do, or that the organizers will do. You will certainly go back home, like I will, and we're going to debrief internally and say, are we doing enough? And I'm pretty sure you're going to do the same thing. So I think that we're all going to go home and ask ourselves the question, did we really do due diligence to building the business case for STEM? You might have, like I did, picked up a couple of best practices that you might want to put into practice right away, or you might actually say, STEM Connector, can you help us with doing maybe an additional deep dive on a couple of best practices we really liked, but we would like to go maybe more in a workshop mode, an offsite with a couple of companies we believe that can take us a little bit deeper in learning best practices. You might go back and say, okay, we really think the idea to go on a couple of college or university boards will be a really big unlock for our companies. By the way, I think that is a really, really good idea, and that's up to you to decide to do that. You might say, I'm going to go back home and do what Walmart is doing, reassessing our talent and see if we can actually reskill them into STEM talent, right? You might go back home and says, we're ready to create more internships and apprenticeships and you might go back home and say, we're ready to talk to colleges about the additional STEM skills we need to be successful in our companies. That is the bucket of, your decision, what you want to do for your enterprise. I think what Edie and myself and the STEM Connector team and all of the strategic partners have to offer is, if there is an appetite for follow-up sessions on a deeper dive in some best practices, I think we owe it to you maybe to get back to the collective strategic partners and give you a recommendation what we could offer for a couple of deeper dives between now and next year's summit, okay? So this will help inform your enterprise STEM talent development strategy, and I think that is amazing added value. So now let's go to the second bucket. The second bucket is, what does the coalition have appetite for to tackle as a coalition together? And if I heard the collective horsepower here correctly, there seems to be a clear understanding that boosting the pipeline, and not squeezing out every drop we have right now in the pipeline, but boosting the pipeline, filling the pipeline, and getting to that pipeline at earlier ages and going deeper in that pipeline seems to be a pretty damn good strategy where we as a coalition could really make the wheel spin faster. And then coming up with sort of sub-strategic imperatives, how could we do that? And I think I clearly heard you today saying that to get to that talent earlier, we will need to reach into high schools. Could we do that, all of us, by covering the communities around us, setting goals for all of us, that by 2018, we will all get, 30,000 high school students in our direct vicinity that are ready to go into a STEM education. And I'm only using that metric as an example, but it should be possible for the strategic partners to reach out to their high school communities, go into the high schools, invite these kids, and by the way, and their parents, because their parents are part of the decision-making process as well. Get them inside of our companies, get them excited for digital fluency, get them excited for computer science, get them excited for the STEM careers they can have in our companies. So that could be actually a pretty easy way to convert a lot of young talent into STEM education enthusiasts, and we also know that that's a way for them to earn more money for their families in the future. Could we also continue to commit to step up even more our Million Women Mentors commitment? Because to Nina Maka's point, we really need to do one-on-one mentoring to get women actually at all stages in their careers, encouraged to take the next step, including girls, but it could also, be women which are already sort of in middle management of our own companies. That shouldn't be rocket science. We roll up our sleeves and mentor these women ourselves. I heard also very clearly this community here saying that digital fluency, no matter where you work, across all industries, and I can tell you, and Balaji, I'm sure you're with me, across the world, is probably the #1 critical need we need to solve for the future of our economies. Is it a possibility for the coalition to sit down with government? Are we ready to step up? We heard Microsoft already being in a coalition. Do we have appetite to join that? Still, these details are to be discussed, but it's very clear we need to have very serious discussion with government, the education system, policymakers around teaching computer science and digital fluency, and by the way, most likely not only in the US. Yes.
Say, I think that the CEO had challenged us to get to 1 million, and that could even be up in the workforce beyond the schools.
Absolutely.
Really exciting goal.
Absolutely. We could easily set ourselves a metric in terms of, how many kids were going to get excited to go into a computer science education. I think it's crystal clear today, for me, it's without any doubt, that skill set is going to be the defining skill set probably for most of our companies in the future. And then number 3, of course, I love my boss to death, and I think after today you know why. His amazing thought leadership in making us think out of the box and more transformational, and thinking about sort of these parallel education models he talked about. Do we really need to have a 4-year STEM education program, or could we create a parallel education system that after 2 years, actually these kids could go into whatever other careers where there is not a need for a bachelor's or actually a master's degree? So these are all thoughts. My recommendation would be, because we're all in this boat together, you all have been amazing strategic thought leaders today. You are excited at a level of 10 that this coalition can really deliver results and have an impact. The recommendation would be that the STEM Connector, the SITF leadership team, our key strategic partners here in the room, will distill and come up with maybe not more than 2 or 3 recommendations for the coalition to tackle. We'll let you weigh in, we'll revise the recommendation, and we'll get to what these 1 or 2 things are that we as a coalition would want to tackle between now and next year's summit. So that would mean we would have maybe 1 or 2 follow-up meetings, and we would really get into roll up our sleeves mode. How can we move the needle as a coalition? And then we're also offering to offer a couple of deep dives on additional best practices you guys have appetite for. So it would be up to us to come with a recommendation for you, and unless you tell me right here, 1 minute before we end, this is the one single thing you would want to recommend right away. It's on your heart, it's on your mind.
Can we wait and get feedback? I think we've had a lot of companies want to come up and help lead something.
Absolutely.
We need to talk to them and come back with you to just get everybody's feedback on this.
Yes, I totally agree. But
It's very exciting to see all these companies that want to participate in something to build this coalition.
Totally agree, Edie. So are there any other sort of closing remarks? Anyone would like to, raise a topic, anything, you felt that we missed today, or you sort of feel comfortable with how we're setting up these summits, how we're setting up the coalition, the best practices you can get out of it for your own enterprise, but also being very surgical on where the coalition can actually make the wheel spin faster. Is there anything?
Yeah, there is one thing. It's thanking you. Everybody, will you join us in thanking Heidi for an amazing
Thank you, Edie. So let me give, Kay?
We need to thank our artists.
Absolutely. We're not done yet. What I actually want to do now is going to a formal thank you round. And what I'd like first is for all of the STEM Connector team really to come up here, because I think you're now understanding that the team has diligently worked for probably about 12 months to get all of these companies together and to get a holistic sort of theme together. So STEM Connector team, please. Brian, can you get Michael? Where's Michael? Talmisha, come up here. Can you come up here, please? So I just want to, again, I did it last night, but I don't want to miss to do it today. Michael, come up here, please. I want to really extend an amazing thank you for you guys for having, curated, designed, planned in a very detailed way for more than 12 months, the first ever employer-led summit. And I think the feedback of all of our collective partners has been amazing. And big thank you to everyone, and big thank you for our STEM Connector fearless leader, Edie Fraser. Thank you. A big thank you to our Master of Ceremony, Rob Denson. You have been amazing today. Thank you, Rob. I think you're going to risk that we're going to ask you for the next summit again. Great. Thank you very much for our artists here. I don't know how they do it. They have been drawing all day without any break. So thank you very much to our artists. Thank you. And thank you, of course, for my partners in crime from the STEM Innovation Task Force for helping us over the last years actually to get prepared to be here today. And last but not least, thank you so much for Gallup for hosting us today. This is a phenomenal event. And I'm glad that my boss offered that we might have one of the next summit actually in Purchase, New York, where PepsiCo has a brand new, beautiful, beautiful facility.
Graciously accepted.
I heard that. Thank you. And have safe travels, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thank you.